I think it will be visibility for Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Universities, because in the 55 odd years before I came on board, the people who knew about the Committee of Vice Chancellors outside the leadership of the universities themselves and maybe the National Universities Commission were very few. At the national level, at the international level, not a lot of people knew about the existence of this eminent organization. So I think the visibility that I was able to create and generate for the organization is something that I'm deeply proud of. Well, when I was given the job, I was actually given a mandate to do a number of things. One of which was to reorganize the Committee of Vice Chancellors Secretariat. The other one was to see how I could harmonize the various entities that constituted the Committee of Vice Chancellors, because at that time we had like two entities, the Committee of Vice Chancellors and then the Association of Vice Chancellors of Nigeria Universities, SG-CVCNU. And then how I can improve the financial bottom line of the organization, and how I can work better with our partner organizations. So these were the 5 milestones that were given to me, and I want to think that I was able to achieve on all the 5. And so it's instructive. And I usually do that wherever I go, that if I take on any responsibility, the first thing I do is to do a scoping study of what is required to move that particular facility to another level, and then agree on a strategic plan, share that strategic plan with key stakeholders and staff of the organization, and then develop an implementation plan. And then at the end of the day, you come and do an assessment that this is what we said we would do, this is what we have done, where were we successful, where were we not successful, and things like that. 2019 November we came on board. By April of 2020, barely 6 months coming on board, the entire world went into a lockdown. And we did that lockdown until about October we started coming out of it. And by the time we were settling down to the lockdown, the academic staff, went on strike, and we went on for another 8 months. So we lost cumulatively about a year and a half, of real work time. So what we have been able to achieve in the 3.5 years or thereabout, I think one can thump his chest and say we did good. That's a tough one. That's a tough one, because the Committee of Vice Chancellors' primary focus is on the leadership of the Nigerian university system. That question, in terms of initiatives, is at the realm of the National Universities Commission, which is the regulatory body for the Nigerian university. So in terms of policy directions and directives, I think what we did was to convince the leadership of the Nigerian university system to adopt certain things, certain policies. For example, COVID-19 exposed our information technology bottom line very badly. As at the time, the Federal Minister of Education was saying, go online. It was a handful of private universities that were able to rise to the occasion. Many public universities shut down because they didn't have any online equivalent. Where they did, what we were proposing as online equivalents were quite laughable. For example, some said, they were using WhatsApp to teach, and so that was going online. And I said, okay, no problem. If that is online for you, that is fine. So we did convince Ministry of Education, TED Fund, to say, look, the amount of money that you are setting aside for information technologies in the universities is a joke. In this day and age, you need to do something much more substantial. And TED Fund agreed with us. and increased by nearly 300% the funding that was available for technology. So I think one of the things that we did in this regime was to put technology on the agenda forcefully, and it was adopted by all actors, NUC, TEDFON, the universities themselves, to see that, look, we've been at the fringes of using technology to teach and work. Time has come for us to now embrace it and embed it. So I think that was one area that we can say in terms of collective policy agreement, we had an impact. The second one was the intellectual property policy. Because by the time we came in, we found out that less than 10% of the Nigerian universities had intellectual property policies. So we worked for nearly 2 years and got the universities to adopt a model intellectual property policy, which they are now implementing in their various universities. So I think that was a major milestone. And then, of course, was our own special baby, which is the EagleScan plagiarism detection software, which had been in the works for a very long time. I think we started discussing EagleScan way back 2012 or thereabouts. That was when the initial conversation started. And by the time I came in 2019, I inherited a shell of a solution, but we were able to take it into a working solution that is now has been adopted, and we have thousands, hundreds of thousands of people using it across Nigeria, across the world actually, which is a product of Committee of Vice Chancellors. So I think if you look at those three, we'll say initiatives were for the Nigerian educational system. These are some of the things that we are very proud of. A small history lesson is instructive here. As at the time the Committee of Vice Chancellors was formed in 1962, 3 of those universities belonged to states, 2 belonged to federal. University of Nigeria, Nsukka, was owned by the Eastern Regional Government. Ahmadu Bello University was owned by the Northern Regional Government, and the University of Ife was owned by the Western Regional Government. The Federal Ministry of Education established University of Lagos as the first university established by an independent federal Nigerian government, while the University of Ibadan was inherited from the colonial administration. So the collaboration between states and federal universities had been there from day one. A lot of people don't remember that aspect of the history. It was in 1967 and the onset of the when the military took over, 1966-67, when the military took over, that the federal government now forcefully grabbed these 3 universities and converted them to federal universities. Until 1979, when the government of Nelford Okilo now established Rivers State University of Science and Technology, and the first generation of state universities re-emerged. That is the second generation now, because the first generation were actually these 3 that were established by their regional governments. So the Second Republic established Rivers State University of Science and Technology, Cross River State University of Science and Technology, Lagos State University, Ondo State University, and things like that. And of course, Anambra State University of Science and Technology, that is now Nnamdi Azikiwe University. So, so that's the point I'm trying to make, is that collaboration had always been there, have been issued. And if you look at it from an organic evolution, you will see that most of the universities in the north that were established from 1975 till date have their umbilical cords linked to Ahmadu Bello University. Ditto those universities in the west and the ones in the east and south today. So there's no way you will see a staff of, say, University of Calabar, my alma mater, that does not have ties with University of Nigeria, Nsukka, or University of Ibadan. So most of my teachers who taught me at the University of Calabar were taught by the University of Ibadan on University of Nigeria and Soka. So if you go to any university in the north, Maiduguri, any of the second generation, third generation, fourth generation in the north, you will find out that the people who left to set up the University of Maiduguri came from ABU. Bahari University came from ABU. Osman Danfodio University came from ABU. So there has always been that organic relationship. And what we tried to do was to now structure it properly. Well, the ones that I think for the Nigerian university system, the major one that I can see that that is a fallout of the last 8 years and continues to today is the core curriculum and minimum academic standards documents of the Nigerian Universities Commission that provides a new curriculum for programs that we undertake in Nigerian universities. Because up until then, the curriculum that were running in the universities were over 30 years old, were badly out of date, were not consistent with the trajectory of global educational standards. The curriculum was also designed to train people for white-collar jobs. The entrepreneurial mindsets and skill sets that were required to operate outside the white-collar work environment was not even taught at the university. So if you were a student of English, the job opportunities that were open to you was to go and teach English or to go and work in a newspaper house as an editor or in a publishing house as an editor. So getting that core curriculum up and running is something that it's not perfect. We still have a lot of changes. They say a lot of resistance because some people believe that it was forced down their throat. And we said, yes, when a drug is forced down your throat, you hold it. If it doesn't do the work that it's supposed to do, then you regurgitate it and then look for a new drug. So let us hold it and see. After 2 years, we can go back and say, okay, where did we make mistakes? What do we need to add? What do we need to subtract, and take them from there? You see, I've mentioned the curriculum. The flip side of it is the governance of the Nigerian university system and the funding of the Nigerian university system, which at the level of the Committee of Vice Chancellors and the level of the Committee of Pro-Chancellors of Federal Universities, which I also serve as Secretary General, we took on those two issues holistically. To say, one, the laws establishing universities, public universities in Nigeria is badly out of date. The laws are inconsistent with other laws. Federal universities especially are being treated like ministries and departmental agencies of the federal government, even though their law singles them out and insulates them as special entities. The interference with operations of the public universities, federal universities, public universities, both federal and state universities, by the National Assembly and state assemblies, are inconsistent with how universities are supposed to operate. So the governance mechanism we said was badly out of date and needed to pursue, and the laws need to be changed. You have situations whereby professional bodies will come and interfere with the curriculum, teaching, and even recruitment of leadership of departments because they feel that their own law empowers them to do so. And that doesn't happen anywhere in the world. So we took on those issues with the National Assembly. We took on those issues with the Federal Ministry of Education, and we put our policy very forcefully. The second part, it has to do with the funding. We did a study to show how much a student, an indigent student, needs to survive for 210 days in a year in a public university in Nigeria. depending on where that university is located. We broke all down and submitted all those figures. That this is how much the student needs at an individual level. So when you now add what he's supposed to pay as user charges, you are now able to arrive at the quantum of funds that is required. And we made a case that students needed to be supported. We made a case that more money needed to be given to the universities. And then the third thing that we focused on is the capacity building for the leadership of the universities. Because we felt that universities leaders needed to have some level of training even before they assume that position, so that they will understand very well the difficult job that they are going to do. Because like I normally say, a vice chancellor is somebody who wears a minimum of 5 hats on that job. So he's a chief executive officer, he's a chief academic officer, he's a chief security officer, he's a chief operating officer, and then current by the proviso of the Data Protection Act, he's the chief data officer of the university. And then of course you relate with about 22 other stakeholders on a daily basis, from students to staff to host community, to government agencies. So some level of capacity building was important that the vice chancellors should be given once they accept the job and while they are also on the job. So these are some of the things that, some of the policies that we pushed very hard, and some are still work in progress, while others have been implemented. Yeah, one of the things I did was to say the Committee of Vice Chancellors is a knowledge organization. It's a subscription-based knowledge organization that manages the leadership of the Nigerian universities. So we must research our leadership. And I'm very happy that the question I asked when I assumed office, how many people have served in the Nigerian university system since 1962 when CVC was founded? Nobody could answer that question in 2001, in 2019. But today, we have a complete compendium of everybody who has served as a vice chancellor or an active vice chancellor in the Nigerian university system from 1960 to date. We know their names, we know their academic disciplines, we know their agenda, we know whether they are alive or they are deceased, and we have that complete database. Then we went on to say, okay, let us look at our state universities and see if we can arrange a peer review of our state universities, which is a work that we are currently doing, so that we can now codify all the things that are happening in our state universities. We are very instrumental to driving TERAS, which is a tertiary education application and research platform that is financed by TED Fund. That is an aggregation platform whereby all students in public and private universities have access to research materials, have access to our plagiarism detection software, have access to sophisticated learning management tools to do research and to function effectively within the Nigerian university system. So that is something that we have done, and we are still engaging with other actors, both local and international, to see how we can drive the whole process of continuous research and innovation within the Nigerian university system. Yeah. So building of capacity, specialized capacity, now became the next phase of our philosophy of education. We're now in a phase whereby we have built capacity, in some cases excessive capacity. But we now have a situation of what do we do with the massification of university education in Nigeria, where we have currently 2.6 million students enrolled into the Nigerian university system, and we are still using the thought process of the 80s to manage this new situation. It doesn't add up. So we need to go back and rethink. And so part of what ASU is saying is that the thought process, the funding, the mechanism that you used for education in the 80s, the last agreement was signed in 1990s. They are still talking about 1993, 1996 agreement. 1996 was how many years ago? Nearly 30 years ago. So you cannot have that type of thought process operating today. But now we have 63 federal universities. The state universities have slightly more. So you must rethink the entire philosophy of what you want to do with universities, and that is only how you'll be able to meet the type of challenges that are being raised by the academic staff unions. And not just the academic staff unions, all the other unions in the university system are also up in arms against their proprietors. We started on a very good tone, working with the Association of African Universities to forge a strategic partnership with them. Nigeria has the largest pool of universities in Africa, and so we worked extensively with the Association of African Universities during my tenure. We also worked with the North Africa Regional Office of the association to promote a medical mobility project whereby the universities in Egypt will support their Nigerian counterparts to promote medical education extensively. We also are also working with the government of Russia to promote subsoil education. We are working with the Africa Reproductive Rights Agency that is supported by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to promote cutting-edge research and research readiness and awareness protocols within Africa. We're working with University of Lincoln to promote equality, diversity, and inclusivity within Nigerian university system. So we've done a lot of international collaboration with universities in Mauritius, with universities in Botswana, with universities in Uganda, and of course the Association of West African Universities, which we also are members of. We've gone to their conferences in Gambia, and so this collaboration is something that we're very proud of. And in addition to academic collaborations, we also do industry level collaborations, because we believe very strongly that the symbiotic relationship between university and industry is something that we should drive comprehensively. I always come from the perspective of the fact that private actors over the years have helped public actors to do what is the primary responsibility of the public sector. So the church comes into the picture. The faith-based organizations, they come into the picture to build hospitals, to build schools, because there were not enough government schools, there were not enough government hospitals. Private actors came into the picture to provide transportation services because government buses were not available. These private actors are actually providing services that government ought to provide for a fee. So when private actors come to help government to take up some of their responsibilities, in other parts of the world, what government does is to incentivize them so that they are able to provide those services at a fee that is reasonable and within the pocket lines of the society. Part of the whole rethinking process, we are saying that, look, if government can say, let us provide a creative financing platform for the universities, or private universities, that will help reduce their costs. The cost that is currently being seen in the private universities will definitely come down. In public universities, the taxpayer is absorbing it, but in the private universities, is the individual that will have to absorb it. In other parts of the world, there are no private universities. Government picks the bill, and where there are private universities, government gives concession. So if you're a landlord and you build a house that is accommodating students, they give you a tax break. So we really need to go to the drawing board to see how we can align this thing, because the private universities, even though currently they are providing services for, they are taking less than 10% of the population of people who want to go into university. The reason why that is so is because of the price. If government incentivizes them and helps to reduce their costs, you will see a lot more people going to private universities. Private universities have been around for 25 years. The oldest private university, the Benedians, are 25 years old. And look at what some of them have done. Are in the top 10 for global ranking. If federal government can increase the support to private universities to help them reduce their costs and improve their bottom line, we'll see an expansion, because it's a win-win. And so there must be some concession for somebody who is providing a social service. That is my own take. When I had an engagement with the former ES of NUC, I dropped on his table a project that I called DARQ 500, DARQ 500. And I said, the technology cocktail that is going to drive everything we do in this world is embedded in that acronym DARQ: distributed ledger, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and quantum computing. And that we need to begin to train 100 masters and PhD students in each of these cocktails, to begin to develop their application, their practical application in education, science and technology, security and agriculture over the next 5 years, and that he should take it up and run. He was hearing of it for the first time, and he agreed that yes, we needed to build capacity. Because you don't have people who have, how many PhDs do you have in Nigeria today in the area of distributed ledger, what you call blockchain? Everybody is using artificial intelligence, but how many people are actually building the technology that drives AI, the large language models that aggregate the data that gives you the things that, the answers that you provide? How many of us are generating content for augmented reality? If you wear an augmented reality headset now, how much Nigerian content can you see in 3D? Not to talk of the holy grail, which is quantum computing. There's a Africa Quantum Computing Group supported by IBM. Headquarters is in South Africa. Go to their website, you only see like about 6 or 7 Nigerians that are doing any work in the area of quantum computing. And these are the cocktails that are going to drive our current state of global operations. When you talk Internet of Things, these are the core technologies that underline them in the next 5-10 years. And we are not contributing intellectually. So that will be hopeful my successor will take up that DARQ 500 and run with it, and see how we can convince the federal government and the other agencies to say that this is what we need to do from a concerted research, development and innovation perspective. Approach to life, I like to work hard. I like to party once in a while. I like trying out new things. I don't like, no, it cannot be done. I trust people. I give them responsibilities. I like working with young people. Because like I said, at a very young age, I was given responsibility. So to say, oh, this man is too small, he's a small boy, can't do the work, I don't believe in that, because I've seen young people, very young people, do remarkable things at their age. If they are given the opportunity, the right, pointed to the right direction, and given the right support. So that's basically my own individual pursuit of everything. I don't like excuses. Oh, I have a headache. Fine, sorry, but please do my work. I broke my leg. Sorry, when you come back from the hospital, do my work. So I can be a bit of a slave driver. And when I have a laser-like focus on an assignment and a target, I want it done, and excuses just piss me off. But other than that, I think I'm a jolly good fellow. I say close your eyes and imagine where you will be when the committee of vice chancellors is 120 years old, when you'll be celebrating your second 60 years. But so where are we now? Where were we when we started with 5 vice chancellors? And then when we turned 60, we were 100 and nearly 200 plus 250 plus vice chancellors. So in another 60 years, where will we be as a committee? Where will Nigerian university system be? And of course, where will Nigeria as a nation be? So that will be my own thought process.